If you're curious as to how the Army handles hand-to-hand combat nowadays, stick around because in this video I'm talking about Army combatives. What's up friends? Welcome to an all new video. In this one I'm going to be talking about combatives, which is essentially what the Army uses nowadays for hand-to-hand combat. Back in my day, that sounds a little weird saying it that way, but back in my day when I first went through basic training, it was more of like a rougher kind of style. You're doing things like, just raking the shins with your foot and doing some basic takedowns, but the Army has gotten a little bit smarter with how to do hand-to-hand combat and used basically a combination of MMA tactics, some jiu-jitsu, some striking, some kicking, some wrestling, and all that kind of stuff, and compiled that together to make the combatives program. So that is what I'm going to be talking about, is how combatives program works, how you can get involved with it if you're in the United States Army, maybe a little bit of what to expect. This isn't the end all be all to the whole combatives thing, because there's quite a bit to it and that would take a long time to explain, but hopefully this gives you just a good kind of general understanding of how hand-to-hand combat or Army combatives is kind of handled nowadays in the Army and how it kind of is structured. Now before we dive into this, if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, maybe enable notifications so you get notified as soon as new videos go live, as well as live streams, and join that notification platoon. Alright, so let's talk about the Army combatives program. There are 4 levels to the combatives program that kind of builds on each other to improve a soldier's skills to make them more just badass, I guess. Me personally, I only went through level 1. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a badass by any means in that kind of realm of combatives, but I have done at least level 1 of combatives when I was in the Army. So let's talk about that first level. So level 1 combatives is a 1-week course or a 40-hour course. When I did it, we kind of were spreading it out to where it was like 2 or 3 hours a day, so it ended up being like 2 weeks. But if you're doing a dedicated combatives course, then it should be 8 hours a day for 1 week straight pretty much. But that is still going to vary from unit to unit as to how long it takes, but essentially it's supposed to be 40 hours of training. During level 1, you're just learning some basic skills. You're learning basic things, how to take downs, how to defend yourself, how to do some submissions, how to kind of improve your position. It's essentially Gracie Jiu-Jitsu that you're going through and you're doing. You're doing this hand-to-hand combat stuff that's more molded to be more like an MMA style kind of training and class and that kind of, experience that you're getting out of it. So I remember like when I was doing level 1 combatives, you're just learning how to do all these different techniques, how to do these takedowns, how to do these submissions, and then you're partnering up and you're kind of just practicing them over and over and over again, getting a workout at the same time because you're doing a bunch of drills as well, and it is another soldier that is teaching you how to do this. And I'll kind of explain how the instructor part of it works a little bit later because that'll kind of flow together in that part. But I remember just, constantly going back and forth with, a partner and trying out different moves, and, you're trying to defend it while the other person's trying to, get the submission on you, and you're just kind of going back and forth trying to practice these different submissions, different takedowns, different defensive maneuvers. And then by the end, you have to test out to get it out of the course to be level 1 certified. And it was kind of a 2-part test when I did it. I don't know if this is still how the test is done, and I won't really elaborate on the other kind of levels as far as testing out of it, but I'll elaborate a little bit on how level 1 was for me when I did it. So the first part of the test that I had to do of this was partnered up with someone, and you're essentially teaching the instructor how to do all the moves that you learned during the class. So kind of to prove that you understood how to do the moves and you know how to teach them properly to another soldier that's not certified at all. So you're just going through all of the moves that you learned and teaching that instructor with your partner how to advance from one position to another, how to apply a specific submission move, whether it's an arm bar or some kind of choke or something like that. And if you successfully are able to, word it all properly and teach the proper technique for those moves, then you pass that first part of the test. The second part of the test was the one I hated the most. You were in line with a bunch of other soldiers, and they had about 3 or 4 other soldiers that were like level 2, level 3 combative certified, and they're wearing boxing gloves, you're wearing nothing, no headgear, no gloves, nothing like that. And they're allowed to punch you, you're not allowed to punch them back. And the goal of this exercise was to successfully grapple with them and hold on to them and kind of block their punches twice. So you had to do that 2 times to just kind of go in there, grab onto them, get a good lock onto them, however you want to do it, from front, from the back, or whatever, and hold onto that person while they're have boxing gloves on and they're throwing punches at you and you're just trying to block them. So that part kind of sucked, and you had to successfully do it twice. And once you did that, then you were level 1 certified. Now the Army actually has a goal of making it to where each platoon at least has 1 soldier that is level 1 certified. So that may be available in some units, but really the goal is to be able to have 1 soldier in each platoon that is at least level 1 certified. Now that is kind of in depth with level 1 because I have actually experienced level 1. The other levels I'm going to talk about them, but may not be quite as in depth because I don't have that experience. But it will still kind of give you a good, general understanding as to how it's kind of structured and, what kind of happens a little bit. So from level 1, obviously move up to level 2, which is an 80-hour course, so it should be 2 weeks if you were doing a class from 8 hours a day for 2 weeks straight. Now this class kind of builds on that first level 1 kind of course. You're kind of re-implementing those same techniques, but maybe applying a little bit more advanced stuff and kind of getting a little bit more in depth with some of that thing. Maybe a little bit more advanced on how to defend and a lot of that. You're still using some of those same techniques from level 1, but now you have to improve on them a little bit more. There is a little bit more of kind of like the teaching aspect of it too, I believe, with this course. So you're not only kind of working on some more advanced techniques and improving those techniques from level 1, but also kind of diving a little bit more into how to teach a soldier, these techniques, and kind of diving a little bit more into that than you did with level 1. Again, like the level 1, the goal in the Army is to at least have 2 soldiers per company that is level 2 certified. Now from there, you're going to move up to level 3 if you're trying to advance even further. That is going to be 160 hours of training, otherwise 4 weeks. Now, it's a little bit different with level 3 and even with level 4 as compared to level 1 and 2. Level 1 and 2 can be done at the unit level, somewhere on post or whatever, but usually level 3 and level 4 have to be done at Fort Benning, Georgia. Fort Benning, Georgia has like this high-speed kind of like combative school that you can go through, and that is where usually a soldier would go through to try to compete for level 3 and level 4. So kind of like the previous ones, you're building on some of those skills from before, where those ones were a little bit more of like what they call a kind of standalone kind of training, where this one is kind of trying to incorporate it a little bit deeper into, being a trainer to be able to train soldiers how to successfully be able to do a lot of these submission moves, takedowns, striking, defensive moves, all that kind of stuff. So it goes to still kind of practicing a lot of those skills that you learned in level 1 and level 2, but additionally kind of adding on a little bit more training as to how to train soldiers to be able to, use these moves that you would learn in combatives. So that is part of the focus in level 3 is trying to be an instructor essentially. And we'll kind of dive into that instructor part here in a little bit. Now there's also a goal with level 3. The goal for the Army is to at least have 3 individuals in a battalion that is level 3 certified. And the 4th level and the final level of Army combatives is also 160 hours long or 4 weeks. It is also taught at Fort Benning, Georgia, so if for an individual who wants to become level 4, the highest you can go in Army combatives, they will also have to attend that school in Fort Benning, Georgia. This one is now getting into master trainers. Now you're supposed to be the end-all, be-all expert of Army combatives. You're trying to be a level 4, so you're supposed to be the really high-speed, knowledgeable person with combatives. You're still doing a lot of that training, doing a lot of hardcore stuff with combatives, but also really being like this expert in being able to teach combatives to the units. And the Army's goal for level 4 individuals is to have 4 of them in each brigade. So let's dive a little bit more into who gets to teach these classes. So level 1 and level 2 are typically going to be taught at the unit level, but who is authorized to teach those levels depends on the instructor's certification, as a level 3 can certify someone to be level 1. And then an individual who is a level 4 combatives can actually teach level 1 or level 2 for the unit level. Now for those that are teaching level 3 and level 4, those are typically someone who's completed the whole entire program, done level 4, has a lot of experience, and has been certified to be able to teach level 3 or level 4. As those individuals are dedicated over to Fort Benning, usually level 1 and 2, those guys are going to be more unit level on post, where now it's a little more high speed for 3 and 4. So those individuals have to actually be assigned to Fort Benning to be instructors for the combatives program. So those ones have to usually be pretty high speed individuals that are very familiar with the combatives to be able to teach level 3 and level 4. So a little bit of a breakdown, I guess, kind of what happens in each level. Level 1 is really just focusing on takedowns, submission moves, advancing position. You're not really doing any striking or anything like that. You'll kind of like fake it a little bit because it's part of like the motions for advancing positions sometimes, but you won't actually do any striking other than kind of a little bit with that test where someone's striking you, but you're not allowed to just really strike back. Once you get to like level 2, then it does get a little bit more into the striking. You are actually striking with individuals, maybe wearing gloves, sometimes doing some slapping where you're going to be smacking around in the face, or maybe punches to the body, some of that kind of stuff. Level 3 and 4, you're gonna be doing all that stuff. You're gonna be doing the striking, the slapping, and all that stuff. But again, like I said, level 3 and 4 are kind of geared more towards being an instructor at those unit levels to be able to teach level 1 and level 2, and also kind of improving those skills in the combatives areas. So now this is a great opportunity for some of you out there that maybe are interested in getting involved with doing MMA essentially, because that's kind of what Army Combatives is in the Army world, it's MMA really. I've had that question before, people who maybe are amateurs or maybe even early in their level of pro career for MMA, and they want to join the Army, but they still also want to do MMA. Now, you're probably not going to get authorization for a lot of units to be able to still pursue MMA while still being in the Army, because they don't want you coming to work all busted up and all that kind of craziness. But if you're doing it through the Army's way and doing it through Army Combatives, that is a little bit better of a route. Now, there are some rare cases of people being able to pursue MMA careers while still being in the Army. You obviously have like Tim Kennedy, who is a UFC fighter. There's probably a couple other smaller cases and stuff. Tim Kennedy is always the biggest one you can kind of think of and more notable that people recognize and think about when you think of someone in the military pursuing an MMA career. Now, an alternative would be to pursue some of these Army Combatives tournaments. It's a little bit more regulated, a little bit more kind of safety involved compared to like a civilian MMA fight, because you're gonna have to wear a little bit more protective gear. It is slightly different, but you will get a chance to kind of essentially compete in MMA, but for the Army, and kind of enhance some of your skills. And then maybe if you get out of the Army, or the Army grants you permission to pursue some MMA fights in the civilian world, then you can kind of work on those skills by doing these MMA tournaments or these Army Combatives tournaments. There are even some people that's kind of almost like their job. They've gotten really good at it to where they're able to be dedicated to only doing Army Combatives in the Army. And that's another video that I might talk about at some point in time, where they have a sports program that soldiers can get involved with if you're doing well enough that you can actually just pretty much do sports for the Army. So hopefully now you understand a little bit more about the Army Combatives program, and hopefully that satisfies your maybe urge or needs to want to know how hand-to-hand combat works in the military. If you like the shirt that I'm wearing, shout out to Grunt Style for hooking me up with some awesome apparel to be able to wear for you guys in these videos. They did not sponsor this video in any way, but they did hook me up with support. So check out the link down in the description if you were looking for this particular shirt from Grunt Style. So if you enjoyed that video, make sure to show some love by hitting a thumbs up. Check out some links down in the description for social media, Patreon, PO Box, and more. If you want to check out some more videos, check out those ones right over there. I'm ThatChrisChaos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. See ya.